Self-pity is the most seductive poison on earth, and the reason it's so dangerous is because it feels comforting while it destroys you from the inside. Most people never escape it. They sit in their rooms, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake, every hardship, every setback, convincing themselves that their life is uniquely unfair. They don't realize that the very act of feeling sorry for themselves is the chain keeping them locked exactly where they are. It's not their circumstances. It's not the economy. It's not fate. It's the quiet voice in their head saying, "It's okay. You've suffered enough. You can rest now." That voice is the enemy. Imagine how many dreams have died because someone spent too long feeling sorry for themselves. Imagine how many great men could have built something extraordinary, but instead wasted months and years repeating the same story about how life did them wrong. Self-pity becomes your identity. You start introducing yourself to the world through your wounds instead of your potential. You start believing that you deserve sympathy instead of success. And the worst part is, you don't even notice when it happens. The trap is subtle. You wake up one day and suddenly you're not chasing goals, you're chasing comfort. You're collecting excuses like trophies. You're waiting for the world to understand you instead of preparing yourself to conquer it. You begin to think your struggles make you special, but struggles mean nothing without action. Pain means nothing without movement. A story of suffering without a story of overcoming is just a complaint disguised as tragedy. Nobody wants to hear that, but that's the truth. The harsh truth that separates those who rise from those who rot. You create your own prison when you dwell in self-pity. You build the walls, you lock the door, and then you cry about being trapped. The moment you start believing that your challenges absolve you of responsibility, you lose. Because life does not reward the man who sits. It rewards the man who stands. It rewards the one who pushes forward even when everything hurts. But here's the part people don't understand. Self-pity feels good. It gives you validation without effort. It gives you an excuse for your lack of progress. It tells you that you're the victim, and victims don't have to take action. Victims don't have to try again. Victims don't have to sweat, bleed, or grind. Victims only need to complain. That is why so many choose that path. Not because they are incapable of winning, but because losing feels easier when you can blame something else. And this mindset spreads. You start comparing yourself to others, telling yourself they had advantages you didn't. You create narratives about why they succeed and why you don't. You convince yourself that the world is unfairly structured against you. And soon, every failure becomes a justification to complain rather than a challenge to overcome. You stop seeing possibilities. You only see problems. You stop seeing solutions. You only see obstacles. You stop seeing the future. You only see your past. Self-pity blinds you. It makes you forget that every great rise began with a moment of brutal hardship. Every champion has a chapter of pain. Every successful person has a period of darkness. But the difference is simple. They refused to stay there. They felt the pain, but they did not worship it. They acknowledged the struggle, but they did not identify with it. They used it as fuel rather than a blanket to hide under. They chose to act while others chose to complain. You have to understand that nobody is coming to pull you out of your suffering. Not because people don't care, but because your life is your responsibility. Your growth is your responsibility. Your healing is your responsibility. Waiting for someone to save you is like waiting for a storm to apologize for raining on you. Self-pity keeps you in a loop, reliving the same emotional cycle without ever moving forward. You talk about your pain so much that you forget to fix it. You discuss your struggle more than you fight it. In the end, self-pity becomes the perfect disguise for inaction. You're not lazy, you're hurt. You're not unmotivated, you're overwhelmed. You're not avoiding your goals, you're processing your trauma. You wrap your lack of action in emotional language so you don't have to admit the truth. You're choosing the easy road. But every time you choose the easy road, you lose a part of yourself. Every time you give in to that comforting voice telling you to rest, you weaken your spirit. Every time you sit in self-pity, the world moves forward without you. What you have to realize is that you are not stuck because you're cursed. You are stuck because you keep choosing to be stuck. You keep choosing the story where you're the victim instead of the version where you fight back. You keep choosing the identity that gets sympathy instead of the one that earns respect. And until you break that pattern, nothing in your life will change. Life doesn't slow down because you're tired. It doesn't pause because you're overwhelmed. It doesn't hand you success because you're emotional, stressed, or exhausted. Life moves with or without you, and it rewards the people who keep going even when every part of them wants to quit. That's the truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding. They believe their excuses have weight. They believe their stories of pain earn them some kind of credit. But life doesn't take excuses as payment. It only takes results. Think about how many times you've told yourself you would start tomorrow. Think about how many promises you've broken to yourself because the day felt too heavy or the circumstances felt too unfair. Every time, you convinced yourself that your reason was valid. You explained it away. You justified your delay. You told yourself you had a right to rest, a right to withdraw, a right to stop trying for just a little while. But while you were comforting yourself with excuses, life kept moving forward. Opportunities moved on to someone else. Time slipped away. Potential faded, not because you were incapable, but because you chose to believe your excuses mattered. The world does not care why you didn't show up. It only cares whether you did or didn't. You can sit there and explain your pain, your schedule, your stress, your hardship, but none of that changes the fact that another person out there pushed through their pain, their stress, their hardship, and now they stand in the position you wanted. The universe does not hand out sympathy points. It hands out trophies to the ones who refuse to stop. People often confuse understanding with reward. They think if the world understands their struggles, the world will pause for them. But the world is not waiting for you to heal, recover, or become emotionally ready. It's moving. And every day you hesitate, someone else is advancing. Someone else is training. Someone else is grinding. Someone else is becoming the person you wish you were. You must realize that excuses only serve you in the moment. They make you feel safe. They soothe the discomfort of self-discipline. They protect you from confronting your own weaknesses. But long-term, excuses are the most self-destructive thing you can indulge in. They steal your growth. They steal your potential. They steal the future you could have had. And the cruelest part is that they steal it quietly. One excuse here, another there, and suddenly years have passed while you've barely moved at all. Life rewards action, always. Not intention, not dreams, not complaints, not explanations. Action, you either do the work or you don't. And people hate hearing that because it strips away the illusion that something external is holding them back. It puts the responsibility directly in their hands. It forces them to admit that their lack of results is not because of life, but because of the choices they make every day. When you look at successful people, you need to see the truth. They also had excuses. They also had rough days. They had reasons to quit. They had emotional breakdowns, financial struggles, personal tragedies. But they chose results over excuses. They didn't waste time crafting stories to explain their failures. They used that time to build something greater. The difference between you and the person you admire is not luck. It's not fate. It's not talent. It's that when their feelings tried to control them, they refused. And when your feelings try to control you, sometimes you give in. Life will test you. It will push you to the edge. It will give you every reason to quit, every reason to slow down, every reason to give yourself the gift of an excuse. But if you accept it, you weaken yourself. Every excuse you accept becomes a brick in the wall separating you from the life you want. Every excuse reinforces the identity of a person who almost made it, almost succeeded, almost became great, but never actually crossed the line because they always had a reason not to. And this is where most people get trapped. They don't see that their excuses are the shield that keeps them comfortable but also keeps them average. When you decide that your excuses don't matter, when you decide that the world will only see what you produce, your entire mindset changes. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop negotiating with your laziness. You stop seeking validation for your suffering. You start working. You start acting. You start becoming the person who gets things done, not the person who talks about getting things done. Results bring confidence. Results bring respect. Results bring identity. When you start stacking wins, even small ones, your brain begins to shift. You realize that success was always in your hands, that results were always possible, that the only thing standing between you and the life you want was the endless list of excuses you kept protecting. The moment you stop expecting life to understand you and start demanding results from yourself, everything changes. Because once you hold yourself accountable with the same intensity you expect from the world, your path becomes clearer. Your purpose becomes stronger, and your excuses lose their power over you. Pain is the currency every strong man has had to pay, and the price is never discounted. You can't negotiate it. You can't escape it. You can't ask life to go easy on you. The truth is simple. The version of you that you want to become exists on the other side of discomfort, and most people never reach it because they spend their entire lives trying to avoid the very thing that would transform them. You think pain is the enemy, but pain is the mentor you keep running from. Pain is the sculptor carving the weaknesses out of you. Pain is the fire forging you into someone capable of handling greatness. Look at anyone you admire. Their strength wasn't born in calm, quiet moments. It was built in nights when they were exhausted but refused to stop. It was built in moments they had no motivation at all, but still showed up. It was built when life hit them harder than they expected, and instead of crumbling, they dug deeper. Pain was the catalyst. Pain was the turning point. Pain was the moment they decided to stop being the version of themselves that broke easily. But most people don't see that. They only see the success. They see the end result, the highlight reel, the victory lap. They don't see the nights of doubt, the hours of struggle, the internal war that tested them again and again. And because they don't see the struggle, they assume the successful are gifted, lucky, chosen. They never realize that the only thing separating them from greatness is their unwillingness to endure discomfort long enough to discover what they're truly capable of. Pain reveals who you are. Every time life pressures you, it shows you whether you're someone who fights or someone who folds. And the reason pain feels so heavy is because it forces you to confront truths about yourself you've been avoiding. It exposes your lack of discipline. It exposes your lack of patience. It exposes your lack of resilience. But if you stay with it, if you allow yourself to go through it instead of running from it, pain becomes the thing that builds you into someone unrecognizable from the weak version you used to be. The world respects strength. The world respects resilience. The world respects the man who refuses to break even when he's shaking on the inside. But that kind of strength isn't developed in comfort. It's developed in the moments when everything goes wrong, when the plan falls apart, when people betray you, when you feel exhausted, overwhelmed, misunderstood. These are the moments that separate mediocrity from mastery. These are the moments where average men crumble and exceptional men rise. Pain is not your punishment. Pain is your teacher. It's the thing that equips you with the endurance needed for the life you say you want. Everyone wants a powerful life. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants respect. But very few are willing to carry the weight required to earn it. They want the reward without the suffering, the transformation without the trial, the growth without the pressure. But growth never works that way. Just like muscles only grow when they're torn, your character only develops when you're challenged. When everything is easy, you don't evolve. You stay the same. You live inside the same identity, the same habits, the same level of strength. But when life hits you with pain, that's when you have the opportunity to level up. Pain forces you to think differently. Pain forces you to adapt. Pain forces you to find a level of strength you didn't know existed. And the moment you break through that barrier, you become someone new, someone capable of handling responsibility, pressure, and ambition on a scale you were never ready for before. There will come a day when you'll look back at everything that hurt you and realize that every piece of suffering was pushing you in the right direction. Every setback was a lesson. Every heartbreak was redirection. Every failure was preparation. And the reason you didn't understand it then was because pain doesn't feel like progress, it feels like punishment. But it's not. It's refinement. It's evolution. It's the process of stripping away the fragile parts of you so the strongest version of you can emerge. When you start to understand this, you no longer fear pain. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That shift in perspective is where everything changes. Because instead of seeing pain as something that stops you, you start seeing it as something that shapes you. You start embracing the grind. You start respecting the struggle. You start viewing discomfort as a sign that you're on the right path, not the wrong one. The men who rise in this world are not the ones who had the least pain. They are the ones who decided their pain would mean something. They chose to weaponize it. They chose to grow from it. They chose to use it as the fuel that pushed them when nothing else could. You must learn to do the same, because pain is not going anywhere, but neither is your potential. The question is whether you will allow the pain to crush you or craft you. Your emotions will lie to you every single day of your life. They will tell you that you're too tired, too stressed, too overwhelmed to continue. They will whisper that you deserve a break, that you've done enough, that your work can wait. And if you listen to them, they will shape you into the exact kind of person you fear becoming: unfocused, inconsistent, average. Discipline is the only force strong enough to silence the noise of emotion. It is the foundation that strong men build their lives on, because they understand that feelings are temporary, but choices echo far into the future. Every successful person you've ever looked up to has mastered one crucial skill: the ability to act regardless of how they feel. They understood early on that motivation is unreliable. Inspiration is unpredictable. Waiting for the right emotional state is a trap that guarantees failure. If you only act when you feel ready, you will rarely act at all. Discipline is the opposite of emotion. Emotion reacts. Discipline decides. Emotion hesitates. Discipline executes. Emotion seeks comfort. Emotion seeks progress. Most people spend their entire lives chasing a feeling rather than building a standard. They want to feel confident before they start. They want to feel energized before they train. They want to feel motivated before they commit. They don't understand that feelings follow action, not the other way around. Confidence is built through repetition, not inspiration. Motivation grows when you see progress, not when you wait for it. Energy increases when you move your body, not when you lie down hoping it magically returns. When you rely on emotions, you become unpredictable. Some days you show up, some days you disappear, and the world never takes inconsistent people seriously. But when you rely on discipline, you become unstoppable. You show up when you're tired. You show up when you're stressed. You show up when the entire day tries to break you. And every time you do, you build a layer of strength that emotion alone could never create. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't hype you up. It doesn't give you a dopamine rush. Discipline is quiet and consistent. It's the voice that says get up when your body wants to stay down. It's the voice that says finish when your mind wants to quit. It's the voice that says you will do what needs to be done because the man you want to become demands it. That inner voice becomes stronger every time you honor your commitments and weaker every time you betray them. People often think discipline is about strict routines or extreme habits, but at its core, discipline is simply choosing your future self over your current feelings. It's refusing to let temporary emotions sabotage permanent goals. It's understanding that the life you want will not come from giving in to comfort, but from mastering the moments when comfort calls the loudest. And comfort will always call loudly. Comfort will always invite you to take the easy road, to delay, to escape responsibility, to procrastinate. But comfort has never created greatness. Comfort has never built legacies. Comfort has never shaped warriors. There will be days when you wake up with zero motivation. Days when you feel drained for no reason. Days when everything feels unfair, heavy, overwhelming. Those are the most important days of your life, because anyone can be disciplined when they feel good. It means nothing. It's easy. But being disciplined when you feel broken, tired, frustrated, that's what separates the strong from the weak. That's where identity is built. That's where self-respect grows. That's where you begin to trust yourself on a deeper level, because you know you can act even when your emotions attack you. Discipline is also the antidote to fear. Fear thrives when you hesitate. It grows in the spaces where action should have been. But disciplined action kills fear before it has time to take root. You don't think you move. You don't negotiate with your doubts. You override them. You don't wait for courage. You behave as if you already have it, and the courage appears in the process. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack consistency. They fail because they let their emotions dictate their behavior. They fail because they allow temporary feelings to sabotage long-term growth. They fail because they choose what's easy over what's necessary. And the tragic part is they know it. Deep down, every person knows when they are betraying their potential. Every skipped workout, every delayed goal, every abandoned promise chips away at who they could have been. The man who chooses discipline becomes a force. He becomes reliable, steady, unshakable. He doesn't crumble under pressure because he has trained himself to operate regardless of how he feels. He has conditioned his mind to follow decisions, not emotions. And because of that, he moves through life differently. Opportunities open for him. People respect him. Challenges don't intimidate him. And most importantly, he respects himself. Discipline creates freedom. It gives you control over your life. It gives you power over your mind. It gives you a future that emotion alone could never produce. When you stop obeying your feelings and start obeying your standards, you become the kind of man who doesn't need motivation to move. You become the kind of man who acts because action is part of who he is, not something he negotiates with himself about every morning. Nobody is coming to save you. That is the first truth you need to accept if you want your life to change. Not your friends, not your family, not society, not luck, you. You are responsible for your future, your progress, your discipline, your transformation. And the sooner you accept that responsibility, the faster everything in your life begins to shift. Because the moment you stop waiting for help, you stop waiting for miracles, you stop waiting for someone to push you, you take control of the one thing you've always had power over: your own effort. People spend years hoping someone will notice their struggle and rescue them from it. They wait for a mentor, for a sign, for a moment of motivation so powerful it forces them to act. They imagine some future scenario where someone appears and says, "Come on, I'll walk you through it." But that moment never comes, because that's not how real change works. Change begins the day you decide that nobody owes you anything, and everything you want must be earned through your own hands, your own discipline, your own resilience. The world is full of people who quit because they expected things to be easier. They thought someone would step in and guide them, or carry them, or fix things for them. And when that didn't happen, they broke. They collapsed under the weight of their own expectations. They convinced themselves that life was unfair instead of realizing they were living under the illusion that help was coming. But help isn't coming. Salvation isn't coming. You have to become your own savior. There is a moment in every man's life when he understands that if he doesn't change, nobody will change for him. If he doesn't push himself, nobody will push him. If he doesn't build his own strength, he will stay weak forever. And that realization is terrifying at first. But it's also liberating, because once you understand that you are the architect of your destiny, you stop handing your power to other people. You stop expecting support. You stop waiting for encouragement. You stop relying on the world to give you what you haven't earned. Responsibility is heavy, but it is also the doorway to greatness. When you finally say, "I am the one who must fix this," you take back control. You take back your time. You take back your mind. You take back your life. Weak men run from responsibility because responsibility requires action, effort, discipline, sacrifice. Strong men embrace responsibility because they know nothing valuable is built without weight on their shoulders. Pressure builds power. Stress builds resilience. Responsibility builds identity. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that they need someone beside them in order to start. They say things like, "If someone supported me, I'd be further ahead. If someone believed in me, I'd try harder. If someone guided me, I'd have more discipline." But that mindset is the exact reason they remain stuck. They are outsourcing their strength. They are waiting for external validation instead of generating internal certainty. They are delaying their evolution because they believe someone else is supposed to start it for them. You have to be the one who wakes yourself up in the morning. You have to be the one who forces yourself to work when you don't feel like it. You have to be the one who cuts the excuses, sets the standard, and follows through on it. You are the engine. You are the power source. You are the one who must create the life you want. And once you accept that, you stop looking around for a hero and start becoming the hero. There's a reason people who take responsibility rise above the rest. They become unstoppable. When you don't rely on anyone else, nobody can hold you back. When you don't expect anything from anyone, you never feel betrayed or disappointed. When you build your life with your own hands, you know it cannot be taken from you easily. You own your progress. You own your success. You own the man you're becoming. You can't depend on other people for strength because other people are fighting their own battles. They have their own fears, their own weaknesses, their own failures to face. Nobody is strong enough to carry you. Nobody is obligated to fix you. Nobody is required to understand your pain or heal your wounds. That is your job. That is your responsibility. That is your path to walk. And as long as you expect someone else to do the work for you, you will remain the same. If you want to grow, if you want to evolve, if you want to break the cycle you're stuck in, you must accept that you are the only person capable of doing it. You must stop handing your power to circumstances, to excuses, to people who don't care as much about your future as you do. You must take ownership of everything your failures, your decisions, your habits, your mindset. Because the moment you stop blaming and start owning, you become dangerous in the best possible way. The truth is simple. You are alone in the pursuit of your highest self. But that is exactly how it's supposed to be. Because the man you become through your own discipline, your own effort, your own grit is 10 times stronger than the man who waited to be saved, 10 times more capable than the man who needed permission, and 10 times more powerful than the man who relied on others to do the hard work for him. You need to hear this because nobody in your life has the courage to say it to your face. Self-pity is destroying you. It's eating your strength, robbing your ambition, and turning you into a man who survives his life instead of leading it. When you sit alone thinking the world owes you something, you're wasting the one thing you can never get back: time. And you know it. That's the part that should sting the most. You know exactly how much potential you have. You know exactly how capable you are. And you also know that every time you choose pity over action, you bury that potential deeper underground. You might think you're justified in your complaints. You might think your struggles, your past, your pain, your circumstances give you a pass to feel sorry for yourself. But they don't. Life doesn't hand out sympathy trophies. Life rewards the ones who move forward when everything tells them to stop. Every great man you admire had moments where the world tried to crush him. They didn't stop to feel sorry for themselves. They didn't pause their mission to cry over their obstacles. They pushed through because they understood a simple truth. The world respects strength, not excuses. Self-pity is the enemy of strength. It convinces you that you're helpless. It tricks you into believing you're a victim. It tells you that life is happening to you instead of being shaped by you. And the moment you accept that lie, you surrender your power. You hand it over without a fight. You let life drag you wherever it wants. You stop being the driver and become the passenger. You stop being the creator and become the consequence. You weren't born to be a consequence. You weren't born to drift through life hoping things magically get better. You weren't born to wait for someone else to save you. You were born with the ability to change your direction at any moment. You were born with the capacity to build, to overcome, to grow, to rise. But none of that can activate while you're drowning in your own sorrow. Because self-pity doesn't make you better. It makes you smaller. It shrinks your world. It shrinks your opportunities. It shrinks your identity until all that's left is a version of you that even you don't respect. Think about it. When was the last time you felt proud of yourself while you were complaining? When was the last time you grew while you were blaming everything around you? When was the last time pity fixed your problems? It never has. It never will. All it does is hold you in place while life moves forward without you. All it does is turn minutes into hours, hours into days, days into years, years you cannot replace. You want power. You want success. You want strength. Then you need to understand this final truth: you cannot achieve anything meaningful while feeling sorry for yourself. Power requires responsibility. Success requires discipline. Strength requires pressure. And responsibility, discipline, and pressure are impossible to carry when you're busy telling yourself that you're too broken, too unlucky, too tired, too hurt to keep going. The moment you let self-pity go, even for a second, you'll feel something shift. You'll feel your energy come back. You'll feel direction again. You'll feel your mind sharpen. You'll feel your body demand action. Because that's who you truly are underneath all the excuses. A man designed for war. A man built for challenge. A man formed through adversity. A man who becomes his strongest self, not by avoiding discomfort, but by walking straight into it. Your future depends on this choice. You can keep feeding the weakness that's been dragging you down. Or you can starve it. You can stop giving your problems permission to own you. You can stop narrating the story of your suffering and start writing the story of your rise. You can stop waiting for a miracle and become one. And it begins the moment you cut off self-pity at the root. Because the world isn't moved by men who complain. The world is moved by men who refuse to break even when everything goes dark. The world follows the man who doesn't beg for something better, but becomes something better. At the end of all of this, understand one thing clearly: your life only changes when you change. Not when you complain, not when you wait, not when you hope someone else fixes it for you. Every struggle you faced, every moment of doubt, every setback that tried to break you was placed in your path for a reason. Not to weaken you, but to forge you. Not to make you bitter, but to make you unstoppable. You've heard every keynote, every truth, every piece of this message, because somewhere deep inside you're ready for it. You're tired of the excuses. You're tired of watching your potential fade. You're tired of living at half power while knowing you could burn 10 times brighter. And whether you admit it or not, you know exactly what the next step is. You know it's time to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You know it's time to take responsibility for your mind, your habits, your discipline, your mission. You know it's time to stop waiting for the world to hand you something and start taking command of your own path. The version of you that complains, that hesitates, that breaks under pressure is not the real you. It's the weakened version you created by repeating the same story of limitation. But the real you, the one buried under all the doubt and distractions, is still alive, still capable, still ready. And the moment you decide to rise, even a little, even imperfectly, that version will come back to life fast. You have a choice now. Continue living as the man who lets life happen to him, or become the man who shapes his future with his own hands. Continue reacting to your circumstances, or start creating them. Continue carrying the weight of your excuses, or drop them and pick up the weight that builds you. The world doesn't need another man who folds. The world doesn't need another man who hides behind misery. The world needs a man who stands up despite the chaos around him. A man who rises when he's tired, fights when he feels weak, and moves forward even when the path is uncertain. You have everything inside you to become that man. You always have. All you needed was a reason to stop holding yourself back. Consider this speech that reason. Consider this moment the line you draw between who you were and who you are about to become. Because once you step across it, once you refuse to let self-pity control another second of your life, everything changes. Your discipline changes. Your confidence changes. Your direction changes. Your future changes. And slowly, day by day, you transform into a man you respect. A man others look up to. A man who doesn't run from difficulty, but uses it as fuel. This is the beginning of that transformation. This is the moment you reclaim your power. This is the moment you stop feeling sorry for yourself and start becoming the strongest version of you.